So we're now going to move on to hear from Mhari Smith, who's joining us from Queen's Park in Brighton.
Hello. Hi. So Mhari's school, they have an arts council who are actively involved in shaping creativity across their curriculum, and arts ambassadors who they use to as a peer-to-peer support service, but also with training staff. Anyway, I'm going to hand over to Mhari. I'm going to run the slides for her. So you just tell me when you're ready for the next slide, Mhari. Shall I put the first slide up now?
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to apologise in advance because this is bang on the time when my son comes home from school and he hasn't got a key and the dog's going to bark. So I'm really sorry, but it's just like the worst timing and a very badly behaved dog. So so we are Queen's Park Primary School, and we have been advocating pupil voice for, I think, about 8 years now. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, Mandy. So it all began with our ArtSmart journey, and it was the first time we had ArtSmart Gold, I think, and I took over as the arts lead towards the end of it running out. So it was all new to me. So we began by doing a staff audit. And from that, we found out that pupil voice was something that just wasn't happening in our school. So we needed to change that. And as Jonathan mentioned before, we took the collective voice approach. So in terms of art ambassadors, art council, that sort of direction. We are doing the other one too. We're slightly trying to embed through projects all the kind of stuff that schools are doing, like stunning starts and using drama and art within all areas of our curriculum. Can we have the next slide, please, Mandy? So we started off with Arts Council because that felt quite sort of safe ground. Based on school council, a child from each Key Stage 2 class attends meetings. It used to be 3 times a year, but we've kind of upped it because they quite enjoy having their voice heard. So it's now every half term we meet. And what they do is come up with ideas of creative strategy improvement across the school. So they then go back to their classes and the children will then vote in each class and will obviously go with the majority. So one of the first things that they did was they wanted an art board that was nothing to do with art displays or things that they did in lessons. It was completely for their own drawings. This has remained a powerful opportunity for children's talents that may have otherwise had a platform. So a lot of children who are really into manga drawing that maybe never get the opportunity to show that in school, they then have it displayed on the board. And quite often those will be the children that are maybe not necessarily as engaged in other more academic things, not always, but it's really nice. And it has sort of morphed now into a second board where children have got different types of artwork. So they've kind of given it titles for what it is. So that's been really nice. And they have badges as well. They love their badges, but they actually mean something because they actually do stuff. Can we have the next slide, please? So then we moved on to our ambassadors. So these are children from years 4 to 6. Their job description is to skill share. And I think Jonathan was talking about that. It's a fine balance. You have to spend quite a lot of time with those children, giving them the skills in order for them to share, which can be lunchtime clubs, sometimes part of the lesson, sometimes after school. And one really successful example was when we took part in the National Theatre's Let's Play programme. If you go to the next one, please. So the idea is that plays are created around a script, but through games that are devised quite cleverly by the National Theatre in order to generate the ideas from the children. So the children put on this show, which was wonderful, but the most amazing thing that came out of the project was that we then skill shared amongst our staff. So these children came in on their first day of their holiday to our CPD training day, and they shared the games that they'd learned, and then they explained to teachers and support staff how they could use it in their English lesson or in their history lesson. And then we were invited to take part in a citywide event. So head teachers and teachers were invited to come to, it was at the Theatre Royal that hosted it. And they then taught these adults the games that they'd learned and explained how they could use them, which was incredible. And that cohort of children I was quite anxious because I'd never done drama before with a whole year group on such a scale, and they were very, very shy, and they were very anxious children, and they absolutely flew. It was incredible to see. Their confidence really, really soared. If we could go on to the next one, please. So yeah, this kind of led on to more staff meetings. We also do training, so that I talked about that, where you have to set aside time to train up those children or ask them what it is that they want to learn, and then they take that back to a group or to a training day. Choosing the children, I haven't put this on there, but it kind of, when Jonathan was talking about choosing the children that you interview, it's really important, I think, that it isn't down to the children to vote who their art ambassadors and art council are, because quite often that will lead to a popularity vote, or it will lead to a kind of obvious choice of someone who's really good at note taking. So I think that's where pupil voice is not great, in that the teacher should choose based on who's going to benefit the most from it, and actually whose voice is it that we don't normally hear in class. So I think that's quite important. I hadn't put that on here. The increase in their ability to see themselves as leaders, not only amongst their peers, but with staff, obviously has a ripple effect into other areas of their learning. I'm sure Jonathan sees that at his school. And their outcomes will be higher, not just in creative subjects, but in all subjects. Can we go into the next one, please? So these are the clubs that have been instigated recently by our Arts Council. We have a singing club, which is led by one of the Year 6 children, and she just plans for that herself. She gathers the children up, she brings them into the room. There's a grown-up in the vicinity, but you know, she's running it. Prop club was something we did when we did the play. Again, that was the children's idea, and all of the props were, you know, decided by them. Scenes club. So this is a historic club that's been run by art ambassadors. And again, they have a register, they gather up the Year 2 children, they show them how to make a zine, they take them back to their class, and I'm there in the background doing my marking, which is lovely. And then we have an art club, which is kind of run by somebody more experienced who's skill sharing, and that's when you can be helping those children to get ready for sharing out their ideas. Yeah, I think we're ready for the next one. This was another staff training day where the children taught the adults some watercolors. That was very nice too. Next one. Yeah, and lockdown came, so actually we found some really good ways of extending pupil voice and making sure we were reaching out to everybody through Google questionnaire. So one of the things that the children decided they wanted, and I was talking about this before, and I don't know if other teachers out there do this, but if there's something that you think, okay, this just, whenever I ask for this thing, it's always a no. And if the children ask for it, generally it's a yes. So pupil voice is so powerful for them and for you. So we had this horrible wall, and the children hated it, and there'd been lots of talk about painting it, and it never happened, it never had the money, blah blah blah. So during lockdown, through a Google questionnaire, the children they first of all chose the artist. So I found a few artists, like graffiti artists around Brighton, They voted for the artist they wanted. Then the Arts Council came up with themes like jungle, water, city. They voted for the theme that they wanted. Then they held a competition. If you go on to the next slide, Mandy. So across the school, the children did design. So they chose an underwater theme, and the Arts Council chose the winners, and the artist incorporated that in her work. So as part of it, I think it's on the previous slide, you can see just one of the examples. Yeah, so she made bubbles within her work. She made bubbles, and the children's work was put on there, and their name was put on it, and they were so excited. And they look after the wall. No one's drawn on the wall. No one's done anything. I mean, for ages, if a ball hit the ball, it was catastrophe. So that was lovely. Gone to the next one. Yeah, we did lots of online challenges. The children came up with the zine challenge, which was great. It went out to the whole school. So it was parents, grandparents, all the people who worked, the cleaning staff, people who worked in the kitchen. And something really nice came out of that. We discovered that one of the ladies that worked in the kitchen was absolutely fantastic at drawing. And she then decided to run an after school art club, which was really nice. If we go on to the next slide. So yeah, our future plans, we're hoping to do lots more collaboration with artists. That was some work we did with Caleb Femi, the poet, and the children were so excited to have him in. That actually wasn't their choice, but from that, they've asked to have more artists working in the school. They want to make more sculptures, so we're going to look for an artist to fulfill this brief. And yeah, we want to reconnect with local studios and expose them to more artists working in creative industries. And my final slide, I think. So the outcomes, kind of what Jonathan said, the children have more invested in the initiatives if they're wholly or part responsible for them. They're excited, engaged, they feel listened to. They care more about the initiatives than they would if it was an adult-led idea. They take ownership. They are more confident and more successful in all areas of their learning. And the final one, I think I can't see it on my screen, but I hope you can. It just says things get done. So when the children ask for things to happen, they happen. And also they're like, they badger you. So if you forget something, they're there saying, don't you remember? You remember we were going to do that thing? And I go, oh yeah, we were going to do that thing. So for me, I think that is one of the most powerful things, is that it works. It really does work. And that's it.